A Nobel laureate in physics claims, "Your soul is a mathematical fact, not a metaphor, not a religious belief, mathematics." And here is what he found inside your neurons. His name is Sir Roger Penrose, a colleague of Stephen Hawking, a man who received the world's most prestigious scientific award for his discoveries concerning black holes, cool, precise, merciless toward every unconfirmed hypothesis. And it is this very man who says, consciousness does not disappear after death. It moves on, and quantum physics confirms it. But let us begin at the moment when everything started, from the intellectual lightning strike that Penrose described as the most important moment of his entire career. Standard science gave a simple answer to the question of consciousness. The brain is a machine, neurons transmit signals, networks process information, and from this arises what we call ourselves, a beautiful, convenient, materialistic model. A model that left no room for either the soul or immortality, but Penrose could not agree with it, not out of sentiment, but because of mathematics. He recalled Gödel's incompleteness theorem. In short, it proves that every algorithm has dead zones. There are things a machine will never be able to compute. Yet the human mind can perceive truth exactly where every algorithm stops. And that means one thing: consciousness is not an algorithm. The brain is not a computer. Behind human thought stands something fundamentally different, something non-classical, and Penrose began to search for exactly what it is. But that was only the beginning. He immersed himself in quantum mechanics, the strangest theory science has ever created, where particles exist simultaneously in several places, where observation changes reality, where objects maintain a bond across time and space, something Einstein called spooky action at a distance. And it was right there in that quantum madness that Penrose caught the scent of the answer. He formulated the idea of objective reduction. In the quantum world, particles exist in a state of superposition. They hold several possible states at once. At a certain moment, this superposition collapses into one specific outcome. Standard science said, this is a passive process, an external influence. But Penrose asked, what if every such moment of choice is a microscopic point at which the geometry of space-time itself makes the decision? And here we reach the most important part. In 1994, an anesthesiologist from Arizona named Stuart Hameroff contacted Penrose, a man who every day plunged patients into the darkness of anesthesia and every day asked himself one question: what exactly turns off when a person stops being aware of himself? For years, Hameroff studied neurons under the microscope and found something most of his colleagues simply ignored. Inside every neuron, there are tiny protein cylinders, microtubules. Science had considered them merely the structural skeleton of the cell. But Hameroff saw something else in them: potential quantum processors capable of processing information at a level inaccessible to any silicon chip. When he wrote to Penrose, between them arose that rare scientific understanding that happens once in a generation. A mathematician seeking the quantum foundations of consciousness had met a biologist who had found the quantum substrate inside a living cell. Together, they developed the theory of orchestrated objective reduction. In short, ORCOR. And this theory changed everything. Wait until you hear the next fact. ORCOR states, consciousness is not a product of neuronal networks, nor the result of electrical signals. Consciousness is a quantum process inside the microtubules of every neuron. These tiny cylinders are capable of sustaining quantum states, and every moment when this superposition collapses is precisely the moment of conscious experience. Imagine it like this. Your brain is not a hard drive storing files. It more closely resembles a cloud connected to a server whose size equals the universe. Microtubules are not merely the cell's skeleton. They are antennas tuned to the frequencies of space-time itself. Every one of your thoughts, every image, every feeling, every flash of insight, all of it is a series of quantum events in microscopic tubes inside your neurons. You are not a computer. You are a quantum instrument, and the universe is playing on you its most coherent melody. But the most important discovery still lay ahead of them. What he saw next defies all logic. If consciousness is quantum information, then what happens to it after the death of the body? Here it is worth recalling one of the fundamental laws of physics. Information never perishes, not even in a black hole. Hawking argued about this for decades, but ultimately he admitted it. Information is preserved, it transforms, it disperses, but it does not disappear. If consciousness is quantum information inside microtubules, then after the death of the body, it is not destroyed. It disperses throughout the universe. It returns to the quantum fabric of space-time, to the same primordial geometry from which matter, time, and space itself are born. Death is not the end. It is a quantum transition of information from a biological carrier to the architecture of the universe. But it must be said openly, OR is a brilliant theory, mathematically justified, yet for now it is not the generally accepted scientific consensus. Penrose received the Nobel Prize for his discoveries concerning black holes, not for the theory of consciousness. OR is a separate, bold step about which the scientific community is still fiercely debating, and that is exactly why it is so fascinating. If you feel you want to learn more about the true nature of our world, become part of our community by subscribing to the channel. Now we continue. When in 1996 the book Shadows of the Mind by Penrose was published, the reaction of the scientific world was predictable: skepticism and irritation. Neurobiologists said the brain is too warm and too wet for quantum effects, which are possible only at temperatures close to absolute zero. But after years, science began to give Penrose unexpected gifts. In 2017, researchers discovered that quantum effects persist in biological systems at room temperature, in the process of photosynthesis. Plants use quantum superposition to transport energy. Living nature has learned to protect quantum states from thermal noise in a way we are only beginning to understand. If photosynthesis is quantum, then why could consciousness not be the same? In 2022, another team discovered signs of quantum entanglement in the structures of microtubules from living cells. This is not final proof, but it is the first direct signal that what Hameroff saw under the microscope was not an illusion. Wait until you hear something else. There are people who have survived clinical death. Their hearts stopped. Their brains stopped receiving oxygen. According to the standard model, consciousness should simply go out like a light bulb without power. Yet they return with descriptions, with experiences, with visions of a tunnel, of light, of presence, with the feeling that they observed their own body from the side. Neurobiologist Pim van Lommel spent 10 years studying 340 patients after cardiac arrest. 18% described a classic near-death experience. And what is most shocking, some of them accurately described details of the resuscitation procedures that they physically could not have seen. Details later confirmed by medical staff, details of where their consciousness was during those minutes when the brain was not functioning. Penrose does not claim outright that the answer lies in OR. He is a scientist too honest for such shortcuts, but he also does not deny that his theory opens a space for exactly these questions, a space in which science and what we once called metaphysics begin to speak the same language. Yet this was only one element of this extraordinary picture. Penrose asserts that the quantum processes in microtubules are connected to Planck geometry, the structure of space-time at the smallest possible scale. At the Planck length, space ceases to be continuous. It becomes granular, discrete, like the pixels of the smallest possible screen, and it is precisely this structure, according to Penrose, that is the substrate of consciousness. Microtubules are sensitive to vibrations at this level. Our consciousness does not simply happen inside the brain. It happens at the boundary between the brain and the deepest geometry of reality. If this is true, we are not islands of consciousness cut off from the world by the skull. We are local manifestations of something incomparably greater, temporary forms that infinite quantum reality assumes in order to know itself. In one interview, Penrose said something he wants you to hear very carefully. He said that the greatest mystery for him is not black holes or quantum gravity. The greatest mystery is that he himself exists, that he is aware of his own existence, that inside the universe there are points from which the universe looks at itself, and that these points cannot be merely a random byproduct of material processes. He did not become a mystic, but he said what a brave scientist must be able to say. I do not know, but what I do know points to something much greater. And here we stand before that something greater, before a theory that says consciousness is rooted in the deepest layers of physical reality. Every one of your thoughts is the universe knowing itself through you, and when death comes, it does not extinguish this light. It returns the quantum information back to that boundless field from which it came, a field that is perhaps itself some form of consciousness, so vast that we have no language to describe it. Ancient traditions have spoken of this for millennia. Hinduism speaks of one consciousness from which all souls emerge and to which they return. Buddhism speaks of the nature of mind that is neither born nor dies. Mystics of every tradition described union with something boundless at the moment of death. They did not have Penrose's mathematics, yet perhaps they intuitively touched the very same reality that he now describes with equations. Roger Penrose is not telling you that death does not exist, but he shows the mathematics that says information does not perish, quantum states are not destroyed, and what your consciousness is at the deepest level is perhaps part of something that existed before your birth and will exist after your death. Only one question remains, the same question Penrose asked himself more than 50 years ago. If the universe is capable of producing consciousness, can the universe itself be conscious? Are we not merely products of the laws of physics, but the expression of some cosmic curiosity that wants to know itself through billions of eyes and billions of moments of becoming aware of the world? Perhaps death is not darkness. Perhaps it is a return home, to that boundless field that was never born and never dies, to which every one of your thoughts already belongs.